a group of eminent knowledge people, Mr. N. Balasubramaniam, CEO of Shrestha Natural Bioproducts, Ms. Bhriti Roy, Senior Manager Packaging Development from Ravi Foods, as well as Mr. Sudhir Shah from Sri Srinivasa Dairy Products. Welcome you all to this eminent panel. So before we get into the panel, this panel is largely talking about the thematic areas. One of which is largely talking about the challenges and how do we tackle the post-harvest losses. The second being how are we making efficient supply chains through the intervention of technologies or novel solutions. And third is how are we trying to create an export potential in the domains that the respective panelists are operating. So we have a very eminent panel who are working on the cross-section of the agriculture, dairy, and also, of course, somebody who's bringing the packaging innovations, right? So very diverse, right? So somebody is working on the confectionery side to dairy and ice creams, and somebody is on the food and agri value chain. So it's giving a whole lot of perspective on agri and beyond, till the food spectrum. So to set the tone or the context of the panel, there are three pieces of this whole collage. One is post-harvest losses, and naturally we know some statistics, but just to bring in the context, I'll just bring in. So post-harvest losses have been very pressing issue as far as the country is concerned. Roughly 30% of the post-harvest losses are booked in the perishables, and it's almost up to 15% of the post-harvest losses in agriculture as far as a commodity in soya or wheat or paddy. On the other side, we also see most of the post-harvest losses happening across the spectrum, whether it be on the harvest to transportation up till the retail, and this is really ranging from 5% to 15% of the post-harvest losses happening during the transit of the commodities. The third is about the storage capacity of the country, which is roughly 50% of the entire production that is happening in the country as far as food grains are concerned. And on the other side, when we see about the economic value of the post-harvest losses, it's almost like 150 lakh crore worth of, 1.5 lakh crore worth of the post-harvest losses which are happening. This is huge. We've been talking this, and of course the industries are trying to solve the challenges, but on the other side we also see a gamut of supply chain operations happening from the industry, and that's why we have the eminent panel. We would definitely love to understand about the supply chain operations, their involvement in this. So we would want to understand about the new interventions happening in the post-harvest sector in terms of handling the supply chain, bringing efficiency to technology, collaborations and innovation. And last but not the least, when we talk about agri exports, the agri exports stood at almost like $52 billion in India. And then with that kind of huge potential, but still India is rated about 1% of the global export potential that we are contributing from Indian side, which is very meager of the global potential. So how do we unleash the potential of the Indian exports, making on par with the other countries? With this, let me introduce the panel members over here. Let me take this introduction. I might miss out something, my apologies for that, but whatever I could grasp from the internet, I would read out for the benefit of the audience. I would introduce Mr. N. Balasubramanian, CEO of Shrestha Bioproducts. Mr. Balasubramanian has been the CEO and Director of Shrestha since September 2010. He has an extensive background in FMCG sector. He has contributed to major brands including 24 Mantra Organic at Shrestha, Safal brand of frozen peas at NDTB. He has worked on Real Good Chicken at brand at Godrej Group, Pedigree's pet food operations in India for Mars Group, as well as he has been the sales director earlier for Tropicana Beverages when it launched in India. He holds a postgraduate degree from IRMA, Anand, and after completing his master's in nuclear reactor physics. Welcome, sir, on the panel. And I have Ms. Bhriti Roy, who's a senior manager, packaging and development at Ravi Foods. Ms. Bhriti has over 16 years of experience in the packaging industry. Currently, she serves as a senior manager, packaging development at Ravi Foods with known brands including Waffy, Duke's Biscuits, chocolates and confectionery. Her specialization in developing innovative and creative packaging solutions, and she brings in postgraduate in packaging science, and she's a certified project manager from Indian Institute of Packaging with her innovative projects. Let me introduce Mr. Sudhir Shah, MD of Sri Srinivasa Dairy Products. Mr. Shah is a MD, and his company is known for manufacturing and marketing ice creams under the popular brand name Scoops and Temptations and Creamstone. He has played a significant role in transforming this small-scale ice cream manufacturing business into prominent South Indian ice cream brand. He is the current president of Indian Ice Cream Manufacturers Association. And welcome you all to this panel, sir. I'm sure this panel would touch about the various nuances of agri, food, confectionery, and dairy industry included. So I will now open the floor for a broad-based discussion on the sector you're operating. Let me open up with Mr. Shah. So what is that you are trying to do in terms of managing the supply chain challenges or post-harvest challenges in your sector, especially the dairy sector, and how is your business able to tackle those challenges? Over to you, please.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Sudhisha. Regarding the cold chain in ice cream, is one of the plays important role. The significant temperature has to be maintained from the manufacturing unit up to the retail chain. Means exactly the stock keeping units moving from the factory and reaching up to the retailer, the minus 18 degrees temperature has to be reached out. Even up to distribution level, that my transportation vehicle, cold chain vehicles have now ACDC vehicles have come, so that plays an important role. And the stock which is kept in that, it has to be intact from the factory up the retail chain, even up to consumer level, that has to be reached. Even the cabinet what we provide to the retailer, that it has to be maintained good temperature. So the ice cream should not be get spoiled and everything. And the ice cream life is about 1 year shelf life. It plays a good role.
So with that, I'll also want to understand as to, how is the kind of technology playing a role in the sector you're operating? Any new technologies that you're using in the ice cream industry as far as the industry is concerned?
Yeah, regarding cold chain, now earlier the ACTC has come. Now, apart from that, glycol vans have come. Once we charge the vehicle for the 12 hours, means it will remain for intact for the 12 hours without dropping the temperature. Even when we open and close the doors of the cold vehicle, the temperature doesn't get fall. Even when we go for delivery from distributor point to retailer point, when lot of opening of doors are there, because every customer will have different stock keeping units, like cones, cups, or whatever requirement. Then we have to open the door and just keep the vehicle and open them. That temperature doesn't get fall. That the latest technology has come, that has helped me us. It is a totally glycol packet. Means total boundary and everything. And once it's charged, means it will be intact.
Okay. Very nice. So we possibly underestimate the potential of ice cream, but there's a lot of things happening in the sector as well. So thank you, sir, for opening the floor. Let me ask Mr. Balasubramanian, so how do you address the ecosystem in terms of the post-harvest losses and the supply chain inefficiencies in your sector?
Thanks, Vijay. And thanks, Chakravarti, for kind of persuading me very hard to come. And thanks for doing this session before lunch. So, because after lunch may be a bit tougher, right? So I think, as I told Vijay, I might go a little bit off subject or stretch the whole thing. Because, I mean, let's say first job I did was working with the National Dairy Development Board to set up stores to sell perishable, that is fresh fruits and vegetables. And that was in 1989, right? And since then, and that time there was a chairman for APIDA called Gokul Patnaik. He's coined this whole 30% loss. No one has measured till date. No agency, no one has measured that. Okay? Everybody quotes the same 30%. Whether it's 30, 20, 40, I don't know. Right? The losses are there. Okay? And it's been there and we have been talking about it. So that's so he said, in my own way, wherever I work, whatever I've done, we have tried to find solutions. But the reality of the whole thing is, with all of us around, we have not yet solved that. Okay? There was a huge proposal. I worked partly with McKinsey for a short period. We tried to get Unilever, Mitsubishi, all the companies to set up cold storages, harvesting facilities, but everybody backed out. This was way back in 90s. Right? So nothing much has happened in the country. So from a food and agri standpoint, including the government of the day, talks a lot about adding value, giving farmers more income, etc., etc. But apart from packaging, the larger issue in the country is still infrastructure. Still how you manage entire sort of value chain from the farm to the consumer. It is still fragmented, still broken, and still full of problems. Right? And we are still battling in each of our own ways to figure out solutions. And I'll give you a classic example. When we started off, and I think some funny thing is, the first trial we did was to tell farmers in and around Delhi to not send vegetables in classical wooden woven baskets, but rather use the plastic crates which we supply to them. and the farmers just won't do it because they felt, it'll spoil the product instead of making it better. So it took us a fair bit of convincing to even make the farmers, give us their produce in our plastic crates rather than in the traditional baskets, which were causing more problems than anything else. And eventually, while we were not able to make a headway, we hired a struggling actor called Shah Rukh Khan, who was just starting off with his first serial, to do a commercial for the farmers. The video is still with me. Shah Rukh Khan's first break in life was given by me. For a commercial where so he kind of requested the farmers to work with us and give us the produce, etc., right? That is the extent to which we had to go. And the reality of, and subsequently I worked with the Godrej Group, all of that, but the reality of my interaction with farmers is, with the land holdings and everything, they are so risk averse because they would rather do what they've been doing traditionally, continuously, rather than take risks, right? As part of the first job and then later with Godrej sourcing grapes, our ability to convince a farmer to adopt new practices, harvesting or cultivation, not use pesticides or use limited pesticides, etc., would really have huge challenges simply because the farmers were not confident. And over a period of time, I think it's just become worse because the income level of the farmers is, I keep sharing in fora where I go, that most farmers with 4-5 acre land holding today earn 100,000, probably 150,000 rupees a year. And we pay more to our drivers today in cities, right? So as a larger level, right, if you want country to improve on various things, it's a huge ask in terms of how we handle the entire, all aspects of this, not just packaging, not just supply chain, right? Because ultimately it comes down to what a consumer is willing to pay, right? Mr. Shah was talking about, and this is why I'm going off script, right? We were saying kind of freezer vehicles, etc. In many years back, there was a company called Snowman, which is still there. And when they came up with these cold chain vehicles, they told me they will charge some 10 rupees a kilo for moving bananas from one place to the other. And I said, my banana procurement is 2 rupees, and who's going to pay me 10 rupees extra, right? So we couldn't do it. We had to do traditional methods, right? So the challenge really is in terms of having the right solutions for some of the problems related to agri, which we face today, okay? From a packaging perspective, it's a little bit later, when I worked with the Godrej Group, we were one of the first companies to try and export grapes to essentially UK. At that time, we tied up with Tesco, etc., etc. Again, it took us a lot of time just to fine-tune the packaging. Now we're talking about recyclable, all the terms we all know in this room. And it took me quite a bit of time just to develop packaging which would be accepted in the UK. This is again mid-90s, right? And develop cartons which will stand 4 degrees centigrade in the container from Bombay to London. So you have the grapes, and then the cartons would invariably collapse mid-sea. And the entire shipment is gone, right? So, and then we imported craft paper from Switzerland, etc., etc. So a lot of story behind that. But I think those are the days when we really struggle to create value, right? Because somebody has to pay for it. If you import, you add to your cost, it gets, complicated. And then subsequently we launched, I was in Tropicana, Pepsi launched a juice. And the first 6 months, we were only draining the juice out through the drains. Because whatever R&D Pepsi had done globally, I had been part of all of that. We said 44 degrees, 45 degrees in Delhi, it will take care, etc., etc. Eventually, everything turned black and we had to drain it out. And why I'm saying that is much later, about 5-7 years back, the Food Processing Ministry called me and we had a big discussion on Modiji's agenda of using fruits better, etc., etc. Till date, there are no solutions. Tetra Pak is expensive. Tetra Pak is not transparent. Consumers do not buy a lot of Tetra Pak products because they don't think it's fresh. Okay, because they don't think it is fresh. Today, the industry where I started in 99 is still very small. I mean, with Pepsi, Coke, ITC, everybody being there, it is still a small industry because Tetra Pak doesn't sell in this country. There is a lot of misunderstanding on Tetra Pak, right? Again, there are no solutions. We try various kind of bottles with whatever, sunlight protection, etc., etc. It doesn't work, and you will not find that in the market. And people tried cold pressed juices, all of that companies have collapsed, basically. Right? So you have pockets of excellence, some small brands doing well in one pocket or the other, but not at scale. So again, our fruit juice industry or fruit industry suffers. Okay, so we are the largest producers of fruits and vegetables, and this also we've been talking for 35, 40 years, but not much has happened since then, right? While I'm kind of saying these things, it's not just about a doomsday thing. A lot of things have changed and evolved. And critically, what I see today from 24 Mantra perspective, what we actually have done over the last 15, 17 years is, work on all aspects. So we work with the farmers to improve their soil productivity. Carbon sequestering is a big thing. That is why we have low productivity. So that's why we tell the farmers not to use pesticides. So that's a part of sustainability. We use whatever packing material from the farm. So one is consumer pack, which we all talk about. But when I have to move goods from, even if it is grains, from the farms to our factories and then export it, etc., etc., how we handle each of this commodity varies. We, as an organic brand, don't use any preservatives or any pesticides in any part of the value chain to figure out how to manage without having any sort of pest attacks and stuff like that at the farm level, at the storage level, everything. That is what took us 5 years just to figure that out, right? So now, I mean, we are at a point where what we have realized, what has helped us, we export to the US. In any Indian store in US, you'll find our brand. What has worked for us is three things. Trust, that means building that trust over a few years. Then transparency, so we have always shared on our pack everything. And traceability, so we have this QR code where people can trace back to where we are sourcing from, etc. So my long answer to a short question is, I think we need to work on multiple aspects of, especially with food and agri. I mean, I worked with poultry industry as well, so I can tell you things about chillers, refrigerators, not being able to sell fresh chilled chicken, etc. So that. B, really, from a packaging perspective, I think I've been in this for so many years. Till about 10 years back, nobody would read what is written on the pack. So like people talked about e-commerce, revolution, changes. I also had some points given by my team. But the reality is with all of that, few years back, we used to say nobody reads what is written on the pack. So it's not so useful, right? You can write anything and get away. Today, forget the regulation. The consumer wants to know, I mean, more and more consumers want to know what's written on the pack as to what is inside, and all of those information adds to the product and the brand. So the one aspect, one is, of course, having appropriate packaging, which I still think is a bit of a, especially even today with 24 Mantra, we struggle. Because we use PET poly, we use, all those materials which are standard materials. And a lot of our core consumers write back to us saying, why can't you use more friendly, more this, more that? But the reality is I can't get my WVTR and OTRs in place with other material, right? I can't protect my grain, which is not treated with anything, from moisture and from pests, etc., if I don't use PET poly. And if I use PET poly, my consumers don't like it, who like organic, who like natural, stuff like that. Right? So that is still a problem. But while we are doing that, I think using packaging to communicate far better, I think is something which we are still not doing as a country and multiple brands. We are still mostly writing what is legally mandated, etc., etc. But I think packaging as a communication medium should be leveraged far more. Thanks.
Thank you, sir, for backing the whole concept very well, starting from the whole spectrum of procurement till the customer's awareness. So you set the tone really. Thank you so much. Mr. Shah, would you want to have a question with, you wanted to ask something to, yeah, Mr. Bala, please.
Thanks, Bala. We had a discussion last week with the Agri and Mine Director of Blue Star. The fruit vendors, what you said exactly, getting spoiled in a day temperature, keeping in hot sun and everything. Fruits are getting spoiled. So they are also working with some cabinets. They can, with a very low cost and everything, so that the fruits can't be hampered.
Yeah, and I'm saying, of course, things are changing and improving, but it's still at pockets and not at scale. That's my, still my concern.
Rightly said, it's mostly on the upstream, on the retail level, but at the wholesale, there are a lot of inefficiency at the supply chain. But you have been very specifically pointing out the need for packaging as one of the low-hanging opportunities. So that points out to Ms. Biti. So I think you are the right person to talk about it. Ms. Biti, how do you see the whole spectrum of packaging innovations coming into picture, solving the issues of post-harvest losses and tackling the wastages happening in the sector? Especially you are in the food and confectionery segment. How are you tackling these aspects of post-harvest losses?
Good afternoon, everybody. Firstly, I would like to thank Chakravarti sir for giving this opportunity to present in front of you. So, a brief discussion, brief about Dukes. So, I am representing Dukes. So, Dukes is a company which is started its brand from 1996. So, in Hyderabad only, we have about 17 state-of-the-art factories. So, take any product like biscuits, chocolates, confectionaries, candies, anything like we have introduced new lines for cakes, crackers, many different products. You name any product and we are there to manufacture for you. So we, apart from our products, people know Dukes as Wafi, but we have gone a lot ahead. We manufacture cakes, biscuits, chocolates, and we are the one of the most loved brand like Bourbon and digestive biscuits. Apart from that, we manufacture for Britannia, Parle, ITC, Hershey. You name any company, we manufacture for them and also for us. So I would like to highlight a few things like what we are discussing about waste. So I will like to focus on the waste being different types. So when we talk about the waste being a packaging developer, so it starts from the basic when we are developing the product, when we are developing the packaging, when we are developing the product and the packaging. So starting from I would like to focus to develop it from the starting when we are initiating the first product, like what is the size of the product and what will be the, how we can leverage the size of the laminate. So everybody must have heard that even 1% of the size of the laminate is giving benefit to the company to a large scale. So that is one of the point where we are starting, where the wastage is starting from the first step, that is our laminate developer. After we doing a laminate development, then we are going to the next step where we are manufacturing it. So there are losses in the manufacturing process itself. So following the best process like Lean Sigma, we are able to identify some of the processes where, we can minimize the losses in the line. So there is the second step. Third step, when we are actually shipping it to the loading stage, so there is also losses. So it can be stack losses, it can be space losses. And last in the morning, we were discussing about the space, how to reduce the space inside the container. So that is also a loss. So each and every step when we see, when we are moving down the ladder, we are trying to eliminate the losses in all across the value chains. So when we talk about the losses in terms of the laminate quantity, also if we speak, there are many products and I hope there are many entrepreneurs here, many startups are there who don't have a much big volume to play. They have a very less volume. So in that, for the laminate, in the printing process also there is innovation which has come. We don't need to go for gravure. We have flexo process. We can have less quantity less quantity laminates like 50 kg or 1 kg. Because it was the more drawback or, it was a difficult part for us also, because we also, like you startly said, we also cater to the export products. So the export orders what we have, it is very less quantity. So for developing for the export product And every time in India, we are very fortunate that we have a reverse order. We get orders every time. But for exports, if you see, we don't have a reverse order. We have a new customer every time, and the quantity is really less. So to cater to that, we have our own facilities, and Dry Foods also has its own label. For our state of the art, if we tell, it's not only the production, it's also the packaging. So we have our tin factory, we have our label. So wherever, it is one of the USP of us. So manufacturing different art of the packaging as well as product. So variation in the product, variation in the packaging, that has helped us to avoid all these wastages and get going, and nowadays we have come up a long way, and we are exporting more than 120 countries.
The potential of packaging. Thanks. I also learned few of things, and I could relate to the problem you're saying, especially working in the startup ecosystem. Of course, building packaging for a huge manufacturing setup might be easy, but for a small startup, in terms of being able to package, was a new dimension that you covered.
Correct, because I know there are audiences who are new setup.
Yeah.
They want to set up a new factory, but for giants, it's very easy to say, you are ordering in tons. Yeah. But we have to think of and packaging from the niche also, because there are many people who are there who are not only, they want a few samples to be printed. But nowadays, those solutions have come, thankfully. Digital printing is there, flexo printing is there, where we have also adapted some of the products. Like we are very much core in e-commerce, and we are very much core in modern trade. So you must have seen all our Dukes Waffles products in modern trade, e-commerce, very easily. So if we talk about that e-commerce and thing, at times we need samples just to show the customer that, see, we are developing this new. So digital printing is one such type of printing where we can easily, they can give you 25, 30 samples which we need to present. So technology and printing technology has helped us a long way to, cater to all sort of industries, starting from the smallest to the giants.
I'll also like to ask one more interesting thing out of my own curiosity, right? We largely relate packaging to a lot of plastic and non-sustainable ways of doing this. So there's also increasing kind of sentiment, or what you call people talking about sustainable ways of managing the packaging. Are there any kind of initiatives happening in the industry with respect to sustainable packaging or eco-friendly packaging, as what we usually jargonize? So what has been the approach of the industry?
That is there. Definitely, most of the sustainable solution which is there, it's really costly as of now. Yeah. But at least few initiatives which we can easily do away. Like in our case, if we talk about our initiatives, some of the bundle packs which you see in the modern trade, which we used to be like flexible packaging, it used to be like in the metallized labels, we have easily reduced it to paper. So some of the things which can be easily done should be done. Because we also need to contribute to each and every for the sustainability. Maybe we are not able to do to that scale, like developing new molecules and ordering new sort of a polymer. All those things, if it is not possible, at least do a bit. Your bit counts a lot.
So that really covers the first part of, handling the losses, whether it be your agri or food or supply chains or largely about dairy, right? So we talked the first part of the waste, but that's at a micro level. But when we enhance into the supply chain level, that's where the second dimension of this whole topic. This is people coming from various gamuts of the industry. I would like to ask one common question to all of you. How do you tackle the supply chain inefficiencies in your respective systems? And what has been the approaches? What has been the new things coming for the benefit of the audience? I would like to start with Mr. Shah.
Yeah, new things are coming up, like what exactly you said, okay, how best we can deliver the products, how best we can deliver, intact, products, everything. The main thing is that we have to pack in the different, madam has told me. The packing has to be developed. It should not get spoiled. The strength of the corrugated boxes should be intact. Once we keep in one by one, it should not, the last one should not be shrink or get shrinkage. That makes the very shabby and everything like that. So that strength of the boxes, the corrugated e-flute boxes, we say that it should be very intact. And when we pack in the crates should not have more than 4 layers for 5 layers. Such that the strength of that corrugated boxes should be intact, and that will give a good delivery.
Okay. So that's something interesting as far as the ice cream sector is concerned. So now I move on to Mr. Bala. So how do you tackle the supply chain in your respective experience?
So, of course, as I said, I mean, things are not that different. But having said that, for example, using basic IT technology tools to, source more efficiently, store more efficiently, and so reduce losses and wastages. That's one basic thing we do. Obviously, as a company, we handle multiple 90 plus agriculture commodities. So it's a bit, without the use of technology, nothing will happen. So anyway, we are supposed to do that. The second thing, as I shared, that one of the challenges in our industry is really, since organic means you can't use any preservatives and pesticides and all of that, we have developed a sort of solution where we do carbon dioxide kind of treatment and all of that, proprietary type of thing. Of course, now industry is kind of, a lot of people have started doing that, which, we did a lot of trial and error and developed that because it's critical for our industry from organic grain perspective. Okay. And the third is, honestly, while we talk about storage capacity and so on and so forth, I think the basic infra required, it's as a private company, we do what we can, right? Which essentially ensures all of the basic, storage requirements like rodents and stuff like that and all that. So that's what we do. So one is supply chain as in logistics, just in time and managing the right inventory so that you have less losses. And second is really using the other part of science, which is how to preserve, how to keep it safe without getting spoiled and without using any chemicals and so on, is what we have developed.
Interesting. So now I ask Ms. Bhiti, how do you tackle the supply chain in your
For
respective sector?
us, see, we have both domestic as well as exports. So from Hyderabad itself, we have both domestic and exports. So for us, forecasting accuracy is very important. If the forecasting accuracy is not there, so we have, as I have said, we have small quantities. So at times during festivals, or we have challenges that small quantities, whom to give preference to, like Indian market or the domestic market, Indian market or the international market. So that forecast based on the forecasting accuracy, that how, what timings and that how it happens. Apart from forecast efficiency, another challenge which is there, and we are continuously facing that when we are loading it, there are a lot of unskilled laborers who are loading the vehicle on the containers on the cartons on the container, sorry. So when they are loading it, so since they are unskilled, they will put, if it is upside down, they will not put in the right direction. So that impacts a lot in the products. So if it is a fragile product, if it has given a particular identification that it has to be kept in a particular way, so that always doesn't happen. So if it doesn't happen, then there is a lag. So, and also it has been found that when they are the laborers, and when it is on a daily meeting, if we are training them, then we get a better feedback, and all these issues, what we face in the supply chain issues, it minimizes a lot. If we give a training like this particular container will go and this will go to this place, this has to be prioritized. So that continuous communication is one of the key to the laborers, because they can't read. At times they also they are not able to read. So continuous communication with the laborers helps a lot to prevent many of the shop floor problems.
So I clearly get a clue, right? Supply chain has not been easy for the industry. It's challenging and daunting as far as, procurement up till, forecasting, the whole spectrum of activities. So it is evolving day by day as the companies are progressing and foraying into new markets. It's clearly evident. So with this, since we spoke about the wastages and supply chain, now the important aspects, right? That is about export potential. How is each of your industry trying to tackle the export industry? That some of you have touched it subtly, but also wanted to understand what new can be done with respect to, elevating your respective sectors to the export potential that India has to unleash. So, Mr. Shah, you want to start? You can start, please.
For the exports, to be export ready, Okay. To be export ready, we need to have all the regulation compliances which is required to export. So all the halal certification, US FDA, EU, all the regulations which is required has to be certified. So we have been fortunate enough to have all the certifications. So that's why we are being able to export to more than 120 countries. Apart from then, to cater to their needs, and to have the manufacturing facility to have such type of product, because for the export, to scale up the export, we need to have different types of product, and the packaging is also very different. For the exports, you see, same packaging doesn't work in India, but in export, it goes very well. Same for the product also. If we see the product, their formulation are different, but same formulation in India doesn't work. So we need to have the manufacturing capacity, state of the art, to have that capability and the infrastructure. So Dukes as a brand has been very fortunate to have everything available. So we have been fortunate to export more than 120 countries, and we don't have much of a challenge. So whatever is asked by the customer, we are able to give. So that's the best part of it.
So your company Duke has been a Duke as far as exports are concerned. So very nice, interesting,
Yeah.
right? So I request Mr. Bala to put a perspective.
I think, we are at someone said earlier, inflection point, and I think as the world looks at, let's say, more provenance of the produce which is being sourced, the, let's say, the traceability, the quality of the produce, all of that, I think we are now at a sweet spot, right? We have done a few things, we have progressed a bit, or let's say, over the last 10 odd years, I think the products being exported from India have improved in terms of quality, perception, everything, right? So I think from here on, it's a question of, like I said, three things which I keep maintaining: trust, transparency, and traceability. So, from Agri, not just in my company, but I think from an overall agri-food standpoint, as our productivity improves, as our, let's say, infrastructure improves, our share of the global market can only go up. It's so pathetic today that it's only has to go up. And while the rest of the world is struggling with multiple issues, as an economy and as, as a country, we are in a great place. And I think we have also now a far better understanding of the markets, which is probably not as much earlier, right? So today, we also understand what US consumers need versus a consumer in Middle East or Japan and so on and so forth, right? But again, as I said, a lot of individual efforts, like we export a lot to US, we are in every state in the US and so on. But it's not like pan-India. So, and I see this, as, let's say, newer people come into business and, the world is becoming smaller in a way and we know more about whatever requirements are there. If we improve our, someone said earlier, right, if our credibility goes up, if we are continuously improving and people can trust our products and our brand, I think we have a huge opportunity to export.
Thank you, sir. Let me ask Mr. Shah, sir, would you want to speak about your sector?
Regarding the export, what exactly is the suggesting? Means now UAE means the different packaging it contains. The language is different. Then certification of halal has to be done in the packing material in the food sector. Being a vegetarian, 100% ice cream, we write the certification of halal. It means people understand it is a non-veg ice cream. So a lot of interpretation, lot of viral has been taking place in different parts. Now you say one say 100% vegetarian, and other side you say it is a non-veg. How can we justify your ice cream? No, that their content of the packing material rules and regulation of UAE in African countries, southern this one, are different because halal certification, halal means packing, printing, everything, color, everything has to be distinguished. So nothing to differentiate between India and UAE packaging.
Yeah. So very interesting. In the interest of time, since we are almost reaching the head of time, but what and we all could grasp out of this whole thing is the whole gamut of industry, starting from dairy or to food, agri, organic, to as much as packaging industry. Everybody in the supply chain is headed towards a change. The whole gamut of operations, starting from very interesting dimension that Mr. Bala brought it as the trust at the farmers level, the traceability at the supply chain level, the traceability at the export level and the transparency at the supply chain level are trying to decode the way the ecosystem is going ahead. And we clearly understand that every industry is understanding the preferences of the market, trying to make a headway into global export markets, and also trying to elevate the way the sectors are operating. Starting from every sector, we take a clue that every sector has been trying to be competent enough in the way in which they operate. So naturally, when the industries are coping up with the whole gamut of the supply chain operations, bringing export efficiency, bringing packaging innovations, naturally, I believe that this will also benefit the farmer, the real stakeholder who is at the primary agriculture industry trying to supply the milk and dairy and the wheat and food. So naturally, this is a real alignment between what farmer is aspiring to do and what industry is trying to do, not only for his business interest, but also to elevate the social status of the farmer. So definitely, it's this all can happen when there is a collaboration, and collaboration, thanks to all of you who joined from various sectors, shared a small piece of your knowledge and in a shorter period of time. And this piece of knowledge and, of course, the shared collaborations would definitely help all of us to grow. And very interestingly, since I come from the startup sector, I've been seeing a gamut of startup in the ecosystem. The last 11 years in my presence in the startup sector, I've been able to see more than 2,000 food and agri-tech startups. Name any startup starting from IT to apps to IoTs to robotics. Many companies, including the supply chain, traceability, blockchain companies are coming in this space, and we also talk about AI. So sometimes we may not relate to the technology in agri-business spaces, but coming from an agri-business industry, I strongly believe to bring efficiency at the farmers and industry level, the industries have to look forward for the agri-tech ecosystems. So the integration between agri-techs and the agri-businesses would further unleash the potential that holds for the country in terms of the supply chain and the exports. Thank you so much once and all for patient hearing. And if I'm allowed, can we open for questions or can we have offline discussions?
People are waiting for lunch.
Thank you, Vijay, for that wonderful moderation. Even though we could reach out to you in the last minute, but I can't thank enough to my big Agri CEO, Balasubramanian. Actually, that name is very resonant in this last 25 years. Right from initiating many initiatives under his belt. After Sivakumar, I respect Bala so much in the Agri. They've done so much here in Telugu states. I truly thankful from my bottom of my heart for honoring our request and not forgetting my dear friend. We always in touch, but I stopped eating ice cream these days. But Sudhir, such a massive industry. Imagine, actually, ice cream industry. I heard about him being the national president of that sector. Thank you very much. And Biti, the young technocrat, packaging technologist. Thank you always for your inputs and supporting the initiative. And Vijay Nadaminti, I think popularly known in this incubation sector in Agri. And thank you very much once again. Big round of applause to all the four gentlemen.